A lot of times when we pray, when people pray, we pray for things. We pray for things like patience. We pray for things like strength. We pray for things like wisdom. We pray for all these different virtues that we feel like we need in our lives at that very moment. And when we pray, maybe the expectation is that God is just going to grant us these things. It's just going to magically give us these virtues that we ask for. When really, what if when we pray for something, God, instead of giving us what we ask for, He gives us opportunities to practice these virtues. Instead of giving you patience, He gives us opportunities to be patient. He gives us situations through people, through events that give us the opportunity to practice patience and develop patience within ourselves. And that goes with every other virtue. So I'm sitting here thinking, teachers are everywhere.
Matrix Productions.
Unlocking levels, unlocking levels, unlocking levels. Hosted by Seal the Source. Tap in.
Welcome back to Unlocking Levels, y'all. I'm your boy CL the Source. Thank you once again for tapping into another episode. And in this week's episode, I wanted to share some reflections that I've been recently having that have been very thought-provoking, very profound in a lot of different ways. I've been experiencing a lot of different revelations recently, just with a lot of the experiences I've been going through, a heightened sense of observation and awareness. So just sharing my thoughts, sharing what I've kind of learned and also been applying to my life. And in today's episode, as I prefaced earlier, I believe that teachers are everywhere, if only we pay attention. And before I continue on, please bear with me. I'm in a different setting right now. I'm traveling, so the background looks a little different. If there's any background noise, please forgive me. I'm gonna try to get this out as as best as I can, and hopefully leave you with something that could help you along your journey. I've recently been thinking, I've been around a lot of different people that are really just different in terms of worldviews, how they view life, how they move, their moral systems, and it just it puts a lot of what I personally believe into question in a lot of ways. Not that I'm questioning myself and I'm not sure of myself, but looking at how kind of other people live their life and paying attention to them and seeing the results that they're getting, or seeing how their life is sort of transpiring, it makes me kind of analyze my situation more. And through the analyzation, I'm learning a whole lot more. Not only about myself, but just life in general. Just through the lenses of other people, being able to kind of put myself in other people's positions. And actually, I learn more through interaction with people. Just to kind of give examples, I work with family members, as I mentioned before, and it's very, it tests you in a lot of ways. It tests your patience, it tests your, it tests your loyalty, it tests your strength, it tests your fortitude, a lot of different things, especially depending on what situation that you're kind of working in. And I think there's such a wide gap of time, space, and age in between generations, meaning the generation that came before me, there's such a wide separation of just differences of how we look at things, how we live life, how we view life, how we do things, and so on and so forth. And it's also, it trickles down to the generation behind me and the generation behind them. It's just kind of the natural progression of things. This is quite obvious. But with that separation of all these different things comes just a separation of just kind of understanding. And but I also believe that there's something deeper there that you can learn, that you can extract and take away from, to help make you better on your journey. You know what I'm saying? So for me, working with older people, working with people that are kind of set in their ways in terms of doing things that they want to do, having their way, and they've gotten through life, through a large portion of their life, doing things one specific set of ways, and it's gotten them to a certain point, and they're pretty content with that and pretty satisfied and happy with that. And they try to teach you that, and it doesn't really necessarily apply a lot of the times. And just to kind of stop beating around the bush here, a lot of times what happens is when people are stubborn and they want to have their own ways, they want to kind of try to, put that on you, and they get impatient themselves and they start acting out. They start throwing tantrums, and they really test your patience, and if you're on a journey similar to mine, where you're just trying to reach your most enlightened state, reach your highest state, become the best version of yourself, some of those things include being more patient, being more kind, being more humble, all these different virtues. And it really got me to realize sometimes, because sometimes certain things still trigger me. And I think that's going to be the case for a long time. I don't know. I can't really quite predict the future, but the goal is for me to, be aware of my triggers and try to heal them, try to not let them trigger me so much, right? And for me, I realized there's still a lot that triggers me. Being around certain people from my past, being around certain family members, it's triggering in a lot of ways. It triggers these reactions out of me where I kind of lose control of myself for a second. I might go into a situation with a certain game plan. Like, for instance, I had lunch with a loved one yesterday, and I already kind of have a general idea and understanding of, how this person is in my life. And, I have this preconceived, already laid out understanding of, how this person moves, what this person says, and, how she is in my life, how I identify her in my life. And so I kind of had a game plan going into the sit down and the lunch. I was just going, take it lighthearted, laugh. And then as the lunch started to progress and we started having conversation, slowly but surely, actually fairly quickly, I started to get triggered by things I would hear her say, things that she would do, like I would just pay attention to the little intricacies, and I was just, for whatever reason, I was getting triggered. And fast forward, end of the meal, and in my own assessment phases, in my own assessment period, I kind of looked over and reflected about the lunch, and I was just like, man, I really didn't show up as my best self at that point. There were a couple times I caught myself when I was getting triggered. I was definitely correcting myself. I would apologize, let that person know that I didn't mean no malintent, and I didn't have no, I wasn't meaning to do nothing wrong or hurt nobody or say nothing wrong. My delivery was not the best, and always meant well, but in my own assessment, I was like, damn, bro, like, you really didn't do as good as like you had originally envisioned yourself to do. What's going on? What is going on deeper internally that still continues to trigger you this day? And family are the people that are closest to you, right? So you have the tendency to kind of just like be one way with them, the way that you've been your entire life. And when you're in a higher state of consciousness, you're trying to change that, right? You're trying to be better. You're trying to show up as your best self every single day in any situation. And through my assessment, through my reflection, I realized that all of these opportunities, all of these situations are merely opportunities for me to practice patience. my loved ones, they teach me these virtues that I need in a very indirect way. You know what I'm saying? Because of the situations that you encounter when you're with them. So for example, just to break that down, that lunch that I had with my loved one, it God presented me with this interaction to be more aware of my triggers, to also have the opportunity to practice more patience. So that in itself is my teacher. It's pointing me to the direction of my triggers, to where I need to put more work in to heal myself. It's also giving me opportunities to apply what I've been practicing on my own. And you're not always gonna succeed. Sometimes you're gonna revert back to your old self. Sometimes you're gonna be triggered and you're going to react rather than choosing to respond. But the beauty of it is that if you're open-minded enough, you can learn from the situation and you can correct yourself and you can get better. And I feel like those opportunities, those interactions are those moments where I can get better, I can improve. And fortunately enough for myself, I'm very blessed. The people that love me give me so much grace. You know, I make mistakes. I've made mistakes that are, I wouldn't say unforgivable, but I would say that they're very tough to forgive. And although I've, in my more recent years, in my more adult years, my more mature years, I've shown myself to be a lot more of a better version of myself. At least I like to think so. I still make mistakes. I still have certain outbursts. I still have certain things that trigger me. And it just points to a lot of area of work that I need to kind of focus on within myself. And again, that's a teacher in itself. I'm learning. And this can happen anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Specifically if you pay attention. And look, what I'm trying to say is, like, you don't, like, when you feel like you're getting triggered and everything like that, you don't necessarily have to just, like, you don't necessarily have to just completely immerse yourself in that shit. You should just kind of go at your own pace. Like for me, I know certain loved ones I only see every so often, but yet it still triggers me. So I have to kind of like, okay, take that situation. Now it's almost like sports, right? You play the game and now you have tape to review, right? You have recordings of yourself that you can review and be like, oh, I slipped up right here. I messed up right here. Oh, I could have done this better, right? And then for the next time around, you're better, right? Now for me, you don't necessarily have the tape. You don't necessarily have something to look at, but you have your memory. You have the ability to reflect and kind of tap back into that moment and realize like what you could have done better. And then again, like I said, it points to your triggers. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you've heard me say multiple times, be thankful for your triggers because they point to where you're not free. And my triggers have definitely done that for me. No matter how healed I think I am, no matter how much work I think I put into myself, there's still a lot of work to be done. And I think that's going to be an ongoing thing, continuous to the day that I die. And for me, I don't look at that in a daunting way. It's more so I look at it as like my experience can get even better than what it is right now. Is that what you're telling me? Yeah, well, sign me up. So really the triggers that I'm referring to for myself, they point to where I'm not free. And they point to what I need to kind of shift my attention to and do some healing work towards, right? And for yourself, if you get to a state where you're paying more attention to what is kind of getting you out of your, kind of knocking you off your square a little bit, or kind of getting you out of character, you got to pay attention to that stuff because that stuff is controlling you. It's something external that's controlling you through your triggers. Your triggers are, like, for instance, if somebody can make you mad and throw you off your game, they control you. You're their puppet. That might sound a little extreme or whatever the case may be, but honestly, if you think about it deeply, it's the truth. If somebody could say something that is irrelevant, like for instance, I'll just do like a common example over here. If someone's like, "Oh, your mama's so fat," blah blah blah, they do like a mama joke. A lot of people get so triggered, they become so intense and mad that they'll shoot that other person. They'll kill that other person. They'll get into a fight with that other person. Or they'll hold a grudge, hold a resentment. It's just like, that person might not even know your mom. That person might not even, like, really, it's just doing something to get you out of character. Doing something to get you off your square, right? And a lot of people react to that. And if you're somebody that's manipulative, if you're somebody that knows how to kind of take advantage of other people's weaknesses, oh man, you're like prey to them. So you gotta develop this ability to strengthen yourself and fortify yourself from within, so that nothing outside, nothing externally can get you to do something out of character. And it's very hard work to do. It's simple. There's a lot of different methods, but it's very difficult. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes trial and error. It takes going back and forth with your old self to your new self. But you can do it. And I know with time, I'm going to keep getting better. And if through all these different applications and methods, you can too. So with that being said, I just want to leave y'all with, teachers are everywhere. Pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to your environment, pay attention to the people around you. But most importantly, when you're in these situations and around these people, pay attention to yourself. And then take that time later to assess your situation and get better. And that's all I got for y'all today. Thank you for tapping in to Unlocking Levels. I'm your boy CL the Source, your friendly neighborhood hope dealer. Hope that y'all got what you can get from out of this episode. And again, thank you for bearing with me. There's a lot of background noise. I'm traveling at the moment. If you did like this episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it with as many people as possible. And thank you so much for the love, y'all. Until the next time, peace and love.